Hey rockers, welcome back to the channel, man. It's getting ridiculously close to Halloween. Many of your favorite times of the year, judging by the comments I get. Thanks for being here at Bloody F Mess Official, man. I got my gear on tonight, man. I got my eyeball scarf. I got my little skull hat. I'm getting ready, man. I even got the skull ring, of course. Some candles burning over here, so if you see some flickering flame action, that's what's going on, man. Happy pre-Halloween, man. I'm continuing my series of scary stories, 3 or 4 days, 5 days of stories about ghosts and goblins and anything scary and weird and Halloween-ish. Tonight's going to be an exception because it's going to be the one that kind of takes the cake. I was going to save this bad boy for, tomorrow, but I thought, why, man? Everybody wants to have the cake and ice cream right now. Wait, it's not a birthday, it's Halloween. Well, we all want to empty out the Halloween bag and dump it out and eat the Tootsie Rolls and the Hershey's bars and the... Never mind. But tonight we're telling a story that's going to creep you out. If it doesn't, that creeps me out. We're going back, man, to the early 80s. And a good friend of mine, one of my best friends in the world, the first guy that ever smoked herbs with me. Shout out to Captain Bill, a.k.a. Bill Boughton, a.k.a. Poison Bee. Me and Bill go back a long way, man. I met this dude in, I think, 7th grade. I could be off by a grade, but I'm pretty sure in 7th grade, he relocated to Peoria, Illinois from Detroit. That's right, Detroit Rock City. And that boy came there rocking and rolling with Ted Nugent in his head and like all this good rock and roll that came out of Detroit, like Kiss. Wait, Kiss came out of New York City, but they did Detroit Rock City. So, hey, give me a break. But Bill came to town and he was different, man. He was more like my kind of people. Black sheep. The kind of kid that people would mess with like they did me. But unlike me, Bill would kick the shit out of them. Bill was a fighter, man. He was a street dude from Detroit. So he was a good friend of mine. And also, whenever people gave me crap, he would jump in, man. No problem. No questions asked. I seen him actually have a fight with a couple of the school jocks, like the tough guys that wore the Richwoods High School, jackets and, wrestlers and whatnot, football players. And I saw Bill many a time take his cigarette, throw it out, and go, right now, let's go, and win. He won. Yeah. A couple times he did that, man, and stuck up for me and for himself. Shout out to Captain Bill. That's what I call him. Because back in the day, I drew a lot of cartoons. And I always wanted to do an underground comic calling it The Adventures of Captain Bill. Because, man, did he get into some crazy stuff in his life, man. But he survived. He's still alive today. Shout out again to Captain Bill. Thank you for your permission. I actually wasn't going to use his name. And he said, use it, man. I'm from Detroit and all. So that sums up the attitude and personality of my friend Bill. Okay, here we go. We're going to go ahead and dig in. Such a bad one. I do have notes I refer to once in a while, but back in 1981 or 82, when Bill was 15 or 16 years old, he was hanging out with some friends of mine, real good friends, a female and a male. I'm not going to say their names because they might not want their names associated with this kind of thing. So I'm just going to call her T, and I'm going to call him D. Now, D was T's little brother. And they lived right next door or really close by the Bartonville, Illinois Mental Hospital, which when it originally opened back in the day, it was called the Illinois Asylum for the Incurable Insane. What a grim title. Now, later on, it became known as the Peoria State Hospital. By the way, it opened in 1902 and it closed in 1973. It was a sprawling estate with a lot of history. You can find a lot of books, which I've read, find stuff online about the old Peoria State Hospital. A lot of grim stuff happened there, man. There's thousands of people buried in graveyards. Some are marked, some aren't marked, but that's another story. But it's kind of tied into this one, too. So a lot of us teenagers back in the day, since that place was closed, we would go out there with spray paint, kegs of beer, we would party, we would go out there and smash windows, we would spray paint, drink, explore all the places in that building, and you'd find like all kinds of stuff that was pretty wild, man. Beds with cages around them and different contraptions to restrain people. A lot of really dark stuff, man. I mean, they did lobotomies at this place. It was for the incurable insane. But unfortunately, back then, they would put people that were even like mentally retarded. Their parents wouldn't know how to deal with them, so they put them in this place. From what I hear, it was very dark. There was a lot of bad things happening there. Now, George A. Zeller, who started the place, he envisioned a pretty good place where people could go and live and relax and have a productive life. But it quickly got into the hands of the wrong people, basically, and wasn't run the way George A. Zeller wanted it to run. And, you know, it got dark. So we'd go through and hang out and party at this place and walk through all the various buildings, walk through the basements, and it was just very, very creepy, very dark, very haunted. It's been the it's gotten the attention of many of the psychics and people that are into ghost stuff. And it's closed down today, but people still go out there to that area, and the graveyard is still open to the public out there. So anywhere there's a grave out there, we're allowed to go there, right? Well, my friend Bill went there. Boy, did he go there. Him and T and D went there. He decided, hey, you guys live right next door. Bill's birthday is on Halloween, and it was just a couple days before Halloween, so he was in the spirit for some spooky stuff. He said, let's go explore. So they went around and explored all the buildings, looked everywhere, saw rats running around, saw the old contraptions and devices for torture, basically. Found all kinds of weird stuff. And then once they got bored walking around, Bill wanted to explore more. So after going through the buildings, they actually found a creepy old shack in the back of the property, right? It was full of pickaxes and shovels. So it was probably the place where they kept the stuff for digging graves and whatnot. But they were tripping, right? Finding all these implements there, all these tools. Around the shack was a little wooded area, slightly eroded, and there was a hill that went down, like a small hill that went down behind it. They discovered the graveyard there, at least one of the graveyards. Not sure how they work out there, if they're all attached or if they're in little different places. But they discovered a little graveyard, and Bill decided, I want a skull. Who decides that? But he found a shovel. It was almost Halloween. He was there. And by God, he was going for it, man. He was like a kid in a candy store, except it was a graveyard. And he wasn't a kid, but he was a teenager, so let's give him a break. I will tell you this. Bill today says he regrets it. I'll tell you that much right now, okay? So for those of you going, bad vibes, you're a bad guy. He regrets it, man. He was a teenager. He made a weird decision, and he did it. But here we are telling it today for your amusement. Should you feel guilty? Nah. Trick or treat, man. They discovered the little graveyard. Bill being a juvenile delinquent and his birthday coming up. Devil's Night, right? He decided to be devilish, and boy, was he devilish. They found tombstones. So they started looking at the tombstones and looking at the various years people were buried. Some of them were tombstones with no names at all. People just forgotten, man. Living out their lives in an insane asylum, probably very darkly, and then being just forgotten and put in unmarked graves. Some of them were so old you couldn't really read them. But then he noticed that there was some erosion that was going on. So he basically picked one of the graves that was badly eroded and, dun-da-da, decides, I'm going to dig here. He's going to dig. So he figured it would be easy to dig up. And he found a tombstone that he decided to dig up. It was labeled and marked with the name Wesley James Seymour. God, wouldn't that be weird if somebody from his family saw this video? Lawsuit! Nah, I think the statute of limitations runs out even for grave robbers. I don't know, man. So they started digging. Well, let me back up. T and D were frightened. They were scared shitless. They were like, no, 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 no. So Bill decides he's going to dig up the grave. And much to his surprise, it wasn't 6 feet. It wasn't 5 feet. Not even 4 feet. The grave was made out of wood, very thin wood, and it was only down about 3 feet in the ground, boys and girls. Pretty whack, man. So he starts digging. I don't really know how long it took him to do it, but I don't think it was very long. But T and D, did I say J? T and D were very scared, so they didn't dig. He starts digging in to, Seymour's headstone. Once he got down about 3 feet, he finally hit wood. It was the coffin. the top of the coffin. He was like knocking on it with this, shovel. Well, it was easy to break through because the wooden casket was rotted. It was just rotted. So they busted through the coffin, or he did. Let me grab my notes that keep falling because I'm like butterfingers. It's really late. It's like 4 in the morning here, 4:15. What am I doing up? Doing this. Happy Halloween from Count Chocula. Anyway, he reached in, once he busted through the casket, he reaches his hand inside slowly. T and D are just like practically holding on to each other. They're freaking out. No one wants to get caught doing this. It's dark out, but it's like quiet, very quiet, except for the sound of their hearts beating fast. Bill decides to put his arm in. Pulls in his arm as if he's reaching in for like a toy on the Bozo show or something and getting the grand prize or something. But he puts his arm in and he pulls out. What do you think he pulled out, man? He put his hand in and he pulled out the upper humerus bone, the left humerus bone. Yep, it's called humerus, but it's really not, is it? Then he put his hand in and grabbed the guy's lower jaw. He's holding on to Wesley James Seymour's lower jaw, and out comes the guy's dentures. I do believe he kept those dentures too, by the way. And so macabre, man. Now he's got the humerus bone. He's got the guy's, dentures. He's got the lower jaw. And then carefully, slowly and methodically, with hearts beating fast, the moon above and the darkness and the silence, he nervously reaches in for the rest of the skull. He gets the skull in his hand. He decided to be careful because Wesley was buried in 1959. He had no idea if the thing would fall apart or whatever, but they don't. Those things are, well, they're made of bone. Anyway, he's got Wesley James Seymour's head, his skull, in his hand. J, or T, I keep saying J. It's late. Give me a break. And I'm totally sober except for a couple of hits of that wacky tobacco. T and D were totally and completely creeped out and ready to get the hell out of Dodge, right? But Bill, oh man, he was having none of it. He was oblivious to those guys. He's like, look what I got. This is coming from his own words. Look what I got. Like a kid in a, showing his collectible baseball card. You got a stack of rookies and then all of a sudden you find the Hank Aaron card. Look what I got. And they're just like, are you kidding me? And basically, there's a look of horror on their faces, and he just, decided he didn't care. He was just like, look, he didn't kill the guy himself, at least. So he's holding the guy's skull, and a lot of Bill's friends after this happened, by the way, didn't believe him. They thought he was lying. You're bullshitting us. He didn't dig no grave. That is not a real skull. That's just some plastic thing you got at the store or whatever. But he did do it. He did do it. And like I said, you guys, he's definitely regretting it today. And a lot of people got real freaked out about that skull. He'd bring it over to my house, and my mom completely jumped his case, man, and really went off on him big time. Like, how dare you do this? And what are you thinking? And what's wrong with you? And that's kind of what the vibe was at my house. My mom wasn't happy about it, but Bill would bring it over. We'd get stoned, smoke bongs, and play with the skull and look at it. But it creeped me out, man. And I kept thinking, man, this thing gives me bad vibes. I feel like it's jinxed or something. And Bill kept saying, too, at the time, a lot of weird shit was going on in his life, and he thought maybe it was jinxed. I didn't wait for him to reply, but I do think that we ended up smashing that skull. Bill, if you're watching, leave a comment, bro. Whatever happened to that damn skull? I think we smashed it because we eventually got kind of afraid of it. Like, this thing is bringing too much bad vibes into our lives, man. And like I said, Bill gave me permission to tell this story. And, I got to say, years later, probably 3 or 4 years later, I was talking to one of my very best friends, the dearly departed, rest in peace, Dean Dirt from the band 1096. And I told him the story of this, right? And he thought I said I did it. And he blew his stack, man. He literally went off. He got pissed off because he was Native American, or, a big part Native American, right? And he went off. He started talking about a certain Native American religion and how we effed up, and we effed up big time. And he said, you wait and see. I promise you, man, you idiots. You screwed up, man. You disturbed something sacred. How dare you guys? totally uncool. You're going to pay. You're going to be jinxed and cursed, and you're going to pay. And I thought, dude, I didn't do it. My friend did. And he goes, cool. Well, whatever. Mark my words. You don't have to believe me. Just wait and see. Something's going to happen. And I thought, damn, it freaked me out, man, because Dean Dirt, for the crazy punk rocker, the skinhead oi boy that he was, he had a side to him that was very teacher-like. Kind of like this AI thing said about me. It said, this guy walks the thin line between clown and prophet. That's how I thought of Dean Dirt. That thin line between clown and prophet. Shout out to SR Woodward, by the way, for sending me this cool little chat GPT thing that did a higher reading about punk rocker Bloody F Mess. I'm going to post that on social media, maybe even on this channel on the post section. But Dean Dirt freaked out, and I got to tell you what happened. I won't go into specifics out of respect for Bill, but some bad shit did happen. And Bill ended up in a wheelchair. He lost, I believe, the lower part of his body. He can't walk. I don't know what year that happened, but it was after the Wesley James Seymour incident. I'm not saying Dean was right. I'm not saying that was a jinx or a curse. You know, some people believe in coincidence. I really don't, but I don't know if these things are connected. And I did tell Bill just earlier tonight. I never told him this because I didn't want to, bum him out. But that's what Dean said. He said, you guys are cursed if you did that. And again, I don't know if that's connected to anything. And, Bill's lived a happy life. He's a total rocker. When I played in Davenport, Iowa last March with Super 88 at the Raccoon Motel, he was out there in his wheelchair in the middle of a mosh pit because the opening act was a hardcore punk band, and man, they were great. And he gets out there and starts just spinning around in the middle of like a hardcore slamming mosh pit, and people were like, look at that guy over there, he's freaking nuts. I'm like, that's Captain Bill. He's such a trooper, man. He's a rocker. And one time I did a country gig with my old outlaw country band, the Renegades, wintertime. Everyone's drinking and having fun, doing Waylon Jennings songs, for Christ's sake. Somebody runs in the bar and tells me, Bloody, your friend that's in the wheelchair's out there in the snow. And he's like passed out, like out of his chair in the snow. I'm like, what? I remember running out, me and I think Tracy, we ran out and got him up, and we're like, bro, are you okay? And he was totally freezing and drunk, blacked out. Got him in his chair, got him back inside. 15 minutes later, woohoo! That's Bill for you, man. The spirit of a rocker that never quits. Nothing but good things to say about you, Bill. Love you, brother. And that concludes the story of how Bill, Captain Bill, dug up a grave. Isn't that nuts? Just think, man, that moment where it's pitch black out, you got maybe a flashlight, or maybe you don't, using a lighter, I don't know, and you're like reaching in a casket, man, and just, what will I pull out? Wouldn't he have freaked out if an arm would have jumped up and just grabbed him? That would have been a trip, man. Like I said, Bill does say he regrets it now. I always want to ask him, what do you think about those days? But he told me that every time, about this time of year, he remembers Wesley James Seymour. And we do say, rest in peace, Wesley James Seymour. And I'm glad that I wasn't part of that grave digging operation. Not my style. I never would have done that. But when Bill told me he did it, all I kept thinking was, I thought I was crazy. Bro, you're nuts. But he lived to tell about it. And that does conclude my story. I do have one PS, if you want to hear it. A little later on, maybe a year or two after that happened, I had a friend who's an ex-friend now because he turned out to be just a complete sociopath. But this guy's dad, they were rich, and his dad went to dental college because he was a dentist, right? Like a very expensive dentist. And he had to work on the teeth on actual skulls when he was in college. So he had a couple of skulls at his house, and the teeth were impeccable. The things all rotted out. They had it wired shut, though, so he could actually take the mouth and make it talk. There was like springs right here. But it was a real human skull, and all the teeth were shiny from him working on it in college, and they let him keep the skulls after they did their test, whatever, on these skulls. Well, I talked my friend into trading me that skull, and it took me about a year for him to say yeah, but one day when he was really hard up and I was selling weed, which I did a lot in my youth, he said, I'll trade you that skull for a 1/4 ounce of weed. I'm like, what? Yeah, I'll give you a half. But anyway, I gave him a 1/4 ounce of weed, and I had that skull for about a year. And I would drive around town in my window of my car halfway down, and I would put the skull in by the jaw and then put the window up to where the skull would be balanced in there so it wouldn't fall out. And I would just go sit at stoplights, and people would do like double takes and be like, freak, weirdo. And other people would say, that's illegal. I'm like, no, it's not. It's got papers. It's got clean teeth. It could do a damn Trident commercial if it wanted. Anyway, man, enough of my bubblicious tales of grave robbing. Talk to you guys soon. I got another one for you tomorrow night that also pertains to this time of year. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about ghosts and people that I know that had ghosts and seen them and dealt with them and experienced them. I even have one of my own tales about ghosts that I did not tell when I did a previous video about my old house being haunted about a year ago. So you can find that and other scary tales about graves and all kinds of weird, crazy stuff. If you go on my video section, there is a great one. Well, there's a lot of good ones about this kind of topic. Hope you find them. Thanks for being here at Bloody F Mess Official. Please subscribe, like the video, leave a comment, and catch you soon, rockers. Cheers. Don't dig up graves. Take it from Captain Bill. Yeehaw! Oh yeah, my new album, Dark Days Unfazed, on cassette and CD. Hit me up in the description area if you want to order. And my email is always in the description area. Dark Days Unfazed. My 10th album. And one of my best if I do toot my own horn for a second. Cheers, man. Skies are black.